Welcome back to Twin Football. Thank you very much for joining us. We are the YouTube channel that covers the NFL and the Premier League. Thank you to everyone who joined us throughout the NFL season, doing our picks and predictions, liking and subscribing. Congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks for a dominant playoff run, a dominant Super Bowl performance. Please let me know your comments. If you watch the game, if you're a supporter of the Seahawks, supporter of the Patriots, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you have any thoughts on both of those teams, their playoff runs, some saying that the Patriots, one of the most fraudulent teams in recent playoff history, whereas the Seahawks, one of the most dominant teams we've seen in recent playoff history. Let me know your thoughts below. But thank you very much for joining us on Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there. We are discussing Arsenal today, the Premier League title, and how all of that pertains to Arne Slot and Liverpool, and how upset I am at the news cycle going around regarding Liverpool, City, and Arsenal. So let's go ahead and start things off with the ESPN article that came out. Arsenal's turn to respond in the Premier League title race falls short in Brentford. This is in regards to Arsenal throwing away a 1-0 lead away to Brentford, dropping 2 points and allowing Manchester City to get back into this title race and shrink that gap to 4 points as Sky Sports title their article, Man City and Arsenal locked in compelling Premier League title battle. Is the Gunners' grip starting to slip after they drop those 2 points? Obviously, they have that game against Manchester City in a couple weeks' time at the Etihad. Talk Sports article reads, well, actually, Arsenal are not going to bottle this because it is one of the best squads in English football history. This is also on the back of a lot of Arsenal fans over the last couple of months regarding Arteta as one of the best managers in the Premier League. Some fans going on Talk Sports and saying one of the best managers ever to grace the Premier League. But those discussions are for a little bit later. I want to talk about, is Arsenal going to bottle this title race or will they hang on? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Who do you think is going to win this Premier League from here on out? How is this title race going to unfold over the next couple of weeks? For me, I like to look at the history. Have we been here before? How have these teams performed in these same situations? And so I want to take us back to 2022, 2023. Here is the Premier League table on Valentine's Day 3 years ago in 2023. Arsenal, a game in hand over Manchester City and 3 points ahead. If they win their game in hand, they extend that to 6 points. For those who are NFL fans and trying to get into the Premier League, to win the Premier League, you get 3 points for a win, you get 1 point for a draw, and 0 points for a loss. You play 38 games, 19 home games, 19 away games, 20 total teams in the Premier League, and whoever has the most points at the end of the season are crowned champions. In 2023, Arsenal were atop the Premier League on Valentine's Day. And what would unfold after that? Could they hold on and win their first title since 2004, almost 20 years ago? They would go on to have one of the worst performances in April we've seen from a contending team in recent history at this point. That all could have been saved on April 26th when they had to travel to the Etihad. At that point, they were 5 points ahead of Manchester City, but having played 2 games more than Manchester City. So obviously now the tables have been turned because of that poor April. If City were to go and win their 2 in-hand games, they would be a point ahead. But in the Premier League, what we've seen is you would rather have the points on the board than a game to go play because, yes, they have the right to earn 3 points, but you have to earn them. So Arsenal traveling to the Etihad with really their title in their hands. If they were to go there and put on a performance and win, extend that lead to 8 points, and Manchester City had only 2 games in hand, they would have to win those just to get into a title race. And so what does Arsenal do when they have to travel to the Etihad in such a pivotal game? They concede after 7 minutes and lose 4-1. Yes, this was Arteta's first real title challenge, so to speak, as manager of Arsenal. But 3 years into the project at this time, everything kind of building up to this, and they just gave it away. Luckily for them, City would go on to draw against teams like Brighton and give them a shot here to get back into this title race. And what does Arsenal do with that second chance in the 2022-2023 season? Well, they go ahead and lose 2 out of their last 3 games, allowing City basically play the reserves in their 2 remaining games, having already clinched the title after Arsenal go ahead and lose Brighton and Forest, and basically hand Manchester City the ability to focus on the FA Cup, the Champions League, and have already wrapped up the Premier League, making them treble winners, the first Premier League treble winners since the United did it in 1999. And Arsenal finished 5 points back of City in that season. Remember, having had a basic 6 point lead on Valentine's Day in 2023, Arsenal finished 5 points back of Manchester City. And remember, they didn't make it far in the Champions League. They didn't make it to the FA Cup final. So they weren't competing on all fronts near the tail end of that season when they played Manchester City, who were competing in those competitions, when they played Brighton, when they played Forest in May, trying to put pressure back on Manchester City. They weren't playing multiple games a week, and they still weren't able to get it done. 2023-24 season. Arsenal, in this case on Valentine's Day, found themselves 2 points back of the league leaders, Liverpool, and tied with Manchester City, who had the game in hand. So if they win that, then Arsenal are 3 points back, but all to play for in the remaining 14 games for Arsenal in the 2023-24 season. And they are the chasers in this. Instead of trying to stave off competition, they are now get to be the chasers. The pressure may be a little bit subdued on them because they are the chasing pack. They haven't won the Premier League title. They aren't the defending champions like Manchester City, trying to catch Liverpool and City in this case. And in fact, they actually are able on 2 occasions between Valentine's Day and the end of the 2024 season secure top spot either on goal difference or on, and it all lasted 1 game. They were unable to maintain their lead in both occasions during the end of this season. They lose to Aston Villa and they draw against title contenders Manchester City, and they basically give away the Premier League title here to, guess who? Manchester City, finishing 2 points back by the end of the season, having drawn to City and lost to Villa, throwing away 5 points, giving Manchester City 4 in a row, the first team to win 4 consecutive Premier League trophies. History makers, as you see here. So let's go now to last year. How was Arsenal on this day, February 14th in 2025? Well, they are 7 points back of Liverpool. Liverpool kind of getting away here. But we've seen in recent years, City and United back 11, 12, 13, when they were battling for Premier League titles, 8 points seems like it was a 1 point lead back then. It's so much flip flopping. So it can be done. 7 points in 14 games remaining is a lot, but it can definitely be done if you can apply some pressure game in, game out, go on a nice winning run. Arsenal the previous season did go on some good winning runs. They just dropped points to Villa and City, and City were practically perfect to end the season. So can Arsenal repeat that? Well, Arsenal were competing in the Champions League last year. Great performances against teams like Real Madrid and a good tie against PSG in the semifinals. Those 4 ties are what ruined Arsenal's season last year. 3 days before the first leg against Real Madrid, they drew to Everton. 4 days before the second leg against Real Madrid, they drew to Brentford. They were able to progress in the Champions League. They drew PSG. And before that game, the first leg against PSG, they drew Crystal Palace. And so those 3 games, they dropped 6 points in those games. They had a win against Ipswich while between the two ties in the Champions League, when they had a little bit more time to prepare. They were able to get 3 points against relegated Ipswich. But that was it. They dropped 6 points in those 3 games and basically handed the title over to Liverpool, who were out of reach at that point, and gave Arne Slot, in his first year as manager in the Premier League, a comfortable 10-point lead, winning the title on 84 points. And so these 3 seasons, if you look at Arsenal, Arteta, and the way that they were able to manage the ends of these seasons, it's not very good, and I can't give them any excuse. One year, they're not fighting on all fronts. They bottle it to Nottingham Forest and to Brighton and lose 4-1 at the Etihad. They are battling on all fronts. They're unable to manage the rotation of the squad. They drop 6 points against teams like Everton and Brentford and aren't unable to kind of catch Liverpool in that season. When they have the lead, they bottle it. They threw it away against teams like Brighton and Forest. They threw it away against teams like Villa, and unable to get a crucial win in multiple seasons against City late on in the season to win a Premier League title. And so for me, I just can't see, if we are looking at the 25-26 table right now, the top 2, Arsenal and Manchester City, a 4-point lead. I can't see anything but a Manchester City comeback and winning this title by a couple of points. If you look at the form table, we are approaching the time where Arsenal are starting to wobble. We will see if they progress in the Champions League like they have been doing over the last 2 seasons, performing very well in that competition. It hurts their Premier League case. They have shown year in, year out that they drop points in and around big Champions League games. They are unable to rotate the squad, maintain focus, and it's very difficult. But City has proven to do that. City has proven to be able to manage multiple competitions. City have focused on themselves year in, year out on how they perform. John Stones with the famous quote with Declan Rice during an international big game next week. "Oh, who are we playing?" John Stones replies, "Well, us." This was in the 22-23 season, where Arsenal lost 4-1 to the Etihad following an international break in a pivotal title race. Manchester City is only focusing on themselves. They don't focus on what other people do. It seems like Arsenal continuously focus on other teams and the referees, other players, and they are just not able to get over the line. They are 7th in the form table here, dropping points in 4 out of the last 6 games, only taking 9 out of a possible 18 points. If you look at the last 6 years for Arteta being in charge, the run-in at the end of the season, 6 games to go, that is where almost every Premier League title is officially clinched or lost, is in those last 6 games. Very rare for a team to win it at a canter like Liverpool during the COVID season. How has Arteta performed in those last 6 games when you're trying to hold on to the Premier League title, or you're trying to give that last push and put pressure on the league leaders to drop some points? He has dropped 33 points out of those 36 games. He's been in charge for 6 seasons. The last 6 games of each of those 6 seasons is 36 games. He's dropped 33 points in those 36 games. That is almost a point a game. With the current lead of only 4 points, if we just fast forward this, everything stays the same when we fast forward to the last 6 games of the season, Manchester City, just off history, are going to win the Premier League title by 2 points. And that is before you look at the run-in that Arsenal have coming up. And a lot of people are focused on this April game between Manchester City and Arsenal, April 18th. But I am focused on the Carabao Cup final, which actually is a couple weeks before that, when Arsenal play Manchester City at Wembley in London. That game for me is the true title decider. And the reason why: Manchester City is historically one of the best Carabao Cup team. They have made the final 9 times. They have won it 8 times. Yes, Liverpool have won the Carabao Cup 10 times. But City has only lost one final, and that was back in the 70s. They have won 6 consecutive Carabao Cup finals, including 4 over the last couple of years. And they take on Arsenal here in Wembley. And the Carabao Cup, the League Cup, if you ask Jose Mourinho, if you ask Pep, if you ask even the Man City ownership, the Carabao Cup is a great trophy to get your season or get the run in going. So it's in March. It's with 3 months to go. The FA Cup's going to be decided. The Champions League is going to be decided. The Premier League is going to be decided in these next 8 weeks following the Carabao Cup. And if you are to win that trophy, especially if you haven't won a trophy in recent years, it is the catalyst to get you over the line in those other competitions and to get your team a taste of winning things that you haven't had. And yes, people maybe look down on the League Cup, the Carabao Cup, but it's a trophy that matters if you are a big team with big goals. Jose Mourinho's first trophy, the Carabao Cup. City's first trophy in the new ownership era, the Carabao Cup. That's the catalyst for both of those teams to get over the line and win something. And it's you have to go and get that done. If Arsenal go into that game, lose to Manchester City, I think their mentality isn't strong enough, if you look at the history of the last couple of years, to then go from London, where that game was played, a couple weeks later, up to the Etihad with a 4-point lead, a 1-point lead, no point lead at that time, whatever the standings are, and get a result against Manchester City. They will hand this Premier League title over after that Carabao Cup. Now, if they are to win that Carabao Cup, they are to get over on Manchester City, finally get over that hump and win a late season game that matters against Manchester City for this time a trophy, then maybe, just maybe, they can go to the Etihad in a couple of weeks' time and get a result. We will see how the Champions League goes. We will see who gets drawn against who. Obviously, Arsenal and City both are in the top 8 and get some rest now, and we'll not have to play these playoff legs here this next week. And we'll see how that affects Arsenal especially. City has proven that they can handle that, but we will see how Arsenal maintain that. And having said all of this, I want to get to my main point of this episode, which if Arsenal have not won their first Premier League title under Arteta and their first Premier League title since the 2004 season, over 22 years ago, Arteta needs to be sacked. I am so tired of these comparisons between Arteta and the greatest Premier League managers of the recent years and how he is even currently one of the best managers in the Premier League. They have done nothing. They have achieved nothing. Arne Slot right now. I saw this following the news. Arne Slot is currently 6-1 odds to be sacked. That is 4th highest in the Premier League, where this is the defending Premier League champions, retooling a squad. Here on Twin Football, we picked Liverpool to finish 3rd. They might finish 4th or 5th this year if they can figure things out on the back half here of the season. They haven't had a season compared to expectations as defending champions, spending hundreds of millions of pounds to bring in top talents like Isak and Kirkez and Verts, Ekitike. But they are trying to retool this squad with a new manager and players like Van Dijk being on the end of their career, Salah being on the end of their career, Konate possibly before the season was going to leave. They're replacing a left back, replacing a right back. And they had a lot to change. They won the Premier League title last year. This is only Arne Slot's 2nd season. And we are expecting Liverpool to sack him? They finished top 8 in the Champions League. They were top of the Champions League last year, going in out of the group stage. They're a top 8 team out of this season. They won the Premier League last year. They might still qualify for the Champions League and finish in a top 5 spot this year. And we are wanting to sack Arne Slot. And if you look on this list, I had to make it so small because Mikel Arteta has the same odds of being sacked as Liam Senior, who was hired 2 weeks ago for Chelsea, 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago on a winning streak. Mikel Arteta, who has been in the job for 6 years, who have bottled the Premier League in 2022-23, who are unable to maintain the lead after getting it twice in the run-in in 23-24, and who were unable to get over the line in the Champions League semifinal against PSG, bottling the league in the process with 3 consecutive draws against bottom table teams and giving the league to Liverpool with a new manager. 6 seasons in charge for Arteta, and he only has an FA Cup to his name. We give Arne Slot now, after this poor season for Liverpool, so much grief for winning the league last year, saying that's a Klopp team and a Klopp success now. Because now that Arne Slot's been able to imprint the team, he hasn't been able to repeat as champions. Only a handful of teams have repeat as Premier League champions in the last 25 years. Only a handful of teams: United, City, Chelsea. That is Jose Mourinho, that is Sir Alex Ferguson, and that is Pep Guardiola. Some of the best modern time managers ever. And we are blaming Arne Slot for not winning back-to-back Premier League titles in his first 2 years. We're going to give that credit to Jurgen Klopp, who also didn't win back-to-back Premier League titles, having won the first one at a canter by 20, 30, 40 points at some times. But Arteta only winning an FA Cup in his first season. No one's giving credit to Emery, Unai Emery, for that success. No, we'll give that to Arteta. He's earned the time. He's turned around the ship. What has he turned around? He's won nothing. He's won nothing. He has one of the best squads in all of Europe. That's what we get mad at Arne Slot for. You're Premier League champions. You signed hundreds of millions of dollars of players. We get mad at Pep Guardiola for that. In the one season he didn't win the Premier League, you spend billions of pounds. Oh, I'm sorry, I just won 4 in a row, won a treble in between. And yet we give Arteta a pass? 6 seasons. The longest tenured manager in all of Europe, behind Simeone and Pep Guardiola. You know what they have won? They've won the league. They've both won the league. And I would say Simeone might even be harder to win the league, having done it twice against Barcelona and Real Madrid. Arteta's bottled the league multiple times. He's bottled semifinals multiple times. Carabao Cup semifinal against Newcastle. 33 points dropped in the final 36 games in Mikel Arteta's managerial career. When the pressure gets hot, Mikel Arteta folds. But 6 years is too long. And if Monday, May 25th rolls around and Arsenal have not won the Champions League or the Premier League, Arteta needs to be sacked. Let me know your thoughts and comments below. Thank you very much for joining us. And remember, enjoy